Welcome in, everyone. In today's video, this is part 2 of healing your anxious attachment and becoming more secure in relationships. Such a huge topic. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, go and watch that. This is part 2. I decided to break it into 2 sections just because it's so long, and my camera also died in part 1. So this is part 2 using the YouTube version of filming, which I've actually never done before, but that's okay. Yes, please watch part 1 if you haven't watched part 2. Please watch part 1 if you haven't watched part 1 yet, and then watch this one. Moving on to our next point, which was about if you're anxious, why you should be dating someone who's secure. Now, this is for the single women and men who know they're anxiously attached. If you don't know your attachment style, again, this is why you need to watch part 1 or listen to part 1 if you're listening to this on my podcast Under the Loon before you watch or listen to this video, because it gives you all of the foundation. So I can't express that enough. Please stop watching and watch part 1 if you haven't already done so. The difference is this will be called part 2, and part 1 is the same title, just in brackets, part 1. So if you're anxious, you should be dating someone who is secure. And these are your reasons why. In our previous video, we ended with the notion of understanding that when you are anxiously attached, you probably, most likely, most definitely, if you're single and you went on a date with someone who is secure, maybe they ticked all your boxes, they were a gentleman, they would, there was nothing wrong with them. There was just no spark. There was just something missing, even though you couldn't put your finger on it. And if you are someone who's anxiously attached, you will not feel a spark with someone who is secure. But this is why you need to date someone who is secure. Okay? Unless you want to experience the emotional roller coaster again and all of the pain and all of the heartache from dating someone who is avoidant, which I doubt is the case. If you're anxious, you need to be dating someone who is secure for the following reasons. Number 1, you want intimacy and closeness. And someone who's avoidant can't give that to you. They will just push you away. But someone who is secure are comfortable with closeness, and they won't try and push you away. You, as an anxiously attached person, are very sensitive to any signs of rejection. Someone who is secure, they are very consistent and reliable, and they won't send mixed messages that will upset you. If you become distressed, they know how to reassure you because they're secure within themselves. You, as an anxiously attached person, find it hard to tell them directly what you need and what's bothering you. They, the secure person, see your well-being as a top priority and do their best to read your verbal and non-verbal cues. Point number 4, you, the anxiously attached individual, need to be reassured and loved. Have you ever dated someone or been in a relationship with someone and you're like, I need reassurance, please just give me reassurance, please just give me clarity? That's anxious attachment. They, the secure person, see your well-being. They, the secure person, feel comfortable telling you how they feel very early on in a consistent matter. Just checking the chat. Hello, everyone. You, as the anxiously attached person, need to know exactly where you stand in the relationship. Have you ever been the woman who's like, so what are we? Are we together? Are we not? Am I your girlfriend? Do you like me? Do you love me? The secure person, they're very stable. They also feel comfortable with commitment. Let me just move that very personal photo out from the background there. All right. If you see the young, I'm the young, wait, where is it? There. If you're watching right now, that's the younger version of me. All right. Moving on. Smoking guns that indicate you're dating someone who's avoidant. So in my previous video, I mentioned that if you are single, there are some things you need to do if you're a single person who is anxiously attached. And one of the things that you need to do is not only understand your own attachment system and go through the other foundations that we went through in the first video, you also need to understand the cues and what to look out for in someone who is avoidant. Some of the best inner work you could possibly do is go out into the dating world when you're ready and look for the cues and be mindful of the cues of someone who is secure versus someone who is avoidant, which is why this video, making a second part to it, is totally fine, because I know it will be long, because we are going to go so in depth with this, because it is so important. Your partner does dictate your happiness. I said this in part one. Do not tell me otherwise. They're happy. They're chasing their goals. They're succeeding. You're happy. They're in pain. They're struggling with their mental well-being. They're unwell. Are you going to be happy? No, you're going to be concerned for them. Your partner does dictate your happiness. So choose wisely. This is how you choose wisely. Just drop me a follow on YouTube and you'll learn. All right. Here are some cues for someone who's avoidant. You might want to write these down. Couldn't be more bubbly about this. If they send mixed messages about his or her feelings towards you or about his or her commitment to you. Mixed messages, avoidant. Done. Very simple. Number 2, they long for an ideal relationship, but give subtle hints that it will not be with you. Number 3, desperately wants to meet the one, but somehow always finds some fault in the other person or in the circumstances that makes commitment impossible. Number 4, disregards your emotional well-being. And when confronted, like you tell them about it, like, hey, that didn't make me feel supported, or I'd really appreciate XYZ. When you confront them about it, they continue to disregard your emotional needs. Number 4, if they suggest that you're too needy, you're just too much, you're overly sensitive, you're overly emotional, or you're just overreacting. If you've ever heard those words, avoidant, thus invalidating your feelings and making you second guess yourself. Are we loving this, ladies? Is this helpful? I know it's helpful. If you want to listen to this on repeat, I guarantee you that many people will. I wish I had something like this when I was trying to heal my attachment style. All right. Ignores things you say that inconvenience him or her. Doesn't respond or changes the topic instead. So if you want to talk about something, but they won't respond, or they give you a really blunt reply and then suddenly change the topic to some completely different topic, avoidant. If you message them a question and they don't answer you, or they don't actually answer the question, they just reply about something else or like the message, but they don't answer your question, avoidant. If you address your concerns as in a court of law, responding to the facts without taking your feelings into account. For example, something happened, an argument, misunderstanding, and it resulted in your feelings being hurt. And they say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's all they can say. They don't actually say, I'm sorry for XYZ and how it made you feel. Or I'm so sorry that made you feel that way. How can I, do better next time? Or, look, I don't really understand. Can you tell me how you feel? That is someone who's secure. That is someone who's trying to understand your attachment style and is looking after your emotional well-being. Someone who just says, I'm sorry. I said, I'm sorry. Avoidant. Again, and I said this in part 1, avoidants aren't bad people. Anxiously attached people aren't bad people, okay? It just means you have wounds from your past that you haven't healed. And when your attachment system is activated, you really struggle communicating in the relationship, and it's just not good for your mental well-being. It's possible to heal, though, and that's why I'm here. Your messages don't get across. So despite your best efforts to communicate your needs, he or she doesn't seem to get the message or else ignores it. So you feel like you said what you needed to say, but they don't understand, or you aren't seeing changes in their behavior, or you communicate it to them and they just kind of like ignore it. They say, okay, no worries. You're like, what? I just sent like 5 paragraphs. Is that all I get? If you send a lot of paragraphs, that's an example of an anxious attachment. And it's very common, and I mentioned this in part 1, that anxious attachments end up dating or being in a relationship with an avoidant. Okay, and this is where all of the issues arise. But as I mentioned previously, we are talking about how to become secure in relationships, to look out for the cues when you're dating, to look out for the cues that, oh, this person's avoidant versus, oh, this person is secure. And one of the best things to know if someone is secure is if they tick all of your boxes, right? They match your standards, they match your values. And if you're anxiously attached and you don't feel a spark with them, you're like, oh, they're perfect. It's just like something's missing and I just can't put my finger on it. Chances are they are secure, because you'll feel that spark and that adrenaline and intense chemistry if you are anxiously attached with someone who is avoidant. So the fact that you feel no spark, even though on a piece of paper they're fine, you might end up pushing that perfect potential partner away because of your own attachment style. I had talked about this more in part 1, though. It's a it's a simple law of probability. The more you meet, the greater chances you'll find the one who is a good match for you. Part of anxious attachment, and I always suggest, if you've only just realized your anxious attachment style and you have only just started your healing journey, be that watching my videos, doing mentorship, journal prompts, whatever it might be, you might need some more time alone. Otherwise, you might and most likely will attract an avoidant, and I don't want you to go through that same heartache and pain. But there's no set amount of time that you need to be alone and cutting yourself off from the dating scene. Your own intuition as a female will tell you when you're ready. And there's also the element of some of the best inner work you can do is going into the dating scene and is picking up on these cues. And there's no other way to do that other than putting yourself out there. Part of being single in the dating scene as an anxiously attached woman, if you have an anxious attachment style, you tend to get attached very quickly, even just on the basis of physical attraction. Ladies, one night of intimacy in terms of intercourse, okay? Intercourse, one night of that, or even just a passionate kiss, and boom, you already can't get that person out of your mind. That is very dangerous for your mental well-being and just your livelihood, and not creating the life of your dreams and not chasing your heart's desires. And let me tell you, you deserve your desires. You deserve everything that you desire and everything that you want, which is why healing your attachment style is one of the most self-loving things you could ever possibly do. As you know, once your attachment system is activated, if you've listened and watched to part 1, you begin to crave the other person's closeness, and you will do anything in your power to make it work, even before you really get to know him or her and decide whether you like that person or not. If you are seeing only him or her, the result is that at a very early stage, you lose your ability to judge whether he or she is really right for you. This is why I say if you've just entered studying attachment theory, if you've only just done that test online that I will link below, that is $2 or $4 that will tell you what your attachment style is. If you have only just done that, to be frank with you, it is dangerous for you to go out into the dating scene. To be frank with you, you do need time alone to heal your attachment style. Otherwise, you will lose your ability to judge whether that person is right for you. You will very much so likely attract an avoidant. And I don't want you to experience the same heartache and pain and anxiety that you previously experienced, which is probably why you're here. Okay. This is dating advice. This is turning into a dating advice video, isn't it? All right. I would like to share with you 2 Bible verses that might just hit home for you. One is John 4:18. I have some notes on my computer. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. What this means is that true love, when it's real and mature and you have healed your attachment style to the best of your ability, I mean, there's always more work that can be done. I'm not perfect by any means. There's always more work that can be done. But if you're with someone who's secure, it will create safety, it will create calm, and you'll no longer have this sense of fear and anxiety when you're with that person. That is peace of mind at its core. Peace of mind, in an evolutionary sense, is love. The other verse I love is 1 Corinthians 13:5-7. Love is not easily angered. It always protects. It always trusts. It always hopes. Always perseveres. This describes love as emotional stability, and it's about being secure. It's about it not being chaotic. Chaos is what attachment styles bring. You're anxiously attached. Chances are you're with an avoidant, or you date an avoidant, or you attract an avoidant. It creates all of this chaos, anxiety, fear. That is not love. It doesn't mean that you don't love this person, but true love, the right love for you, won't create that fear and anxiety. If you're going to take one thing from this video or episode, if you're listening on the podcast, it's that. All right, moving on. Where are my notes? Okay, so we have gone through the understanding that you need to, hang on one moment, guys. Okay, we've gone through what things to look out for in someone who is avoidant when you're dating, and we've also gone through the things to look out for in someone who is secure when you're dating. Another very important thing that has absolutely nothing to do with attachment styles, but obviously if you're here, you take your life seriously. You need to acknowledge and accept your true relationship needs. Having anxious attachment, you also need to have very clear and certain relationship needs, okay? Because it is possible to heal. It really is. It's possible to become completely secure. It is. but it's a journey. It's not going to happen overnight or in a couple months. Okay, so even if you come a long way, you'll still have an element of anxious attachment. I mentioned in my first video, when I did the test online, I was surprised. I was like, oh, I am anxiously attached, but I also have a pretty good score of being secure. Wow, I've come a long way. The little percentages, or the small fraction of you that is still anxiously attached, you will still have needs, okay? And if you do not express your needs to the person you're dating or seeing, or the person you're in a relationship with, that's just going to what? Bring up more anxiety, fire up your attachment system, and the person you meet or you're with will not make you happy. For example, if you are anxiously attached, one of your needs might be availability, closeness, intimacy to a degree, but that is your decision. Personally, I am made the decision with myself that I will not involve myself in intercourse until marriage. Security, reassurance when you ask for it. The fact that you need these things, it's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing. It's a neutral thing. They are just your needs. So do not let people make you feel guilty for being needy or being dependent. People who make you feel guilty for being needy or dependent are probably avoidant, most likely, which is also reinstating that you probably are what? Anxiously attached. So that's my next point, is accepting and acknowledging your true relationship needs. Take a moment, pause the video if you need to, or the episode, and think about, what do you need? Knowing that you are anxious, or knowing that you still have extreme anxious attachment, 10% anxious attachment, whatever it might be, you still have an element of that. You don't want it to fire up and ruin a potentially really great partner, a really great relationship, or the relationship you're in right now. How can you communicate your needs to your partner so that there's less arguing and there's less conflict and there's less chaos and there's more peace and calm and security? I keep swiping off the screen on this YouTube live to look at my notes on my laptop. I really hope and pray that every time I swipe off, it's still filming. Is there a way to, I don't know. All right. I guess we'll find out when we finish. My next point is to start assessing the people you date based on those needs, but also your values. Just because you have anxious attachment and you have these needs, and you're being mindful of the cues of someone who's secure, and you're being mindful of the cues of someone who is avoidant, that's not enough. What about your values? What about your standards? Values, standards are not them being nice or kind or respectful. That goes without saying. That's below the bare minimum. Understand that. Secondly, what are your standards and your values? If you prioritize your own health and fitness, do they need to prioritize their health and fitness? If you follow a particular religion, do they need to follow a particular religion? Do you have the dream of having children and a family? Does that man need to be financially stable then? Do you want children? Okay. Is a standard or a value that they want children too? You need to start writing down your list of standards and values. And the best way to start doing it is just think of the things that you already value, the standards that you already have for yourself. Let's check the chat. Any questions? Okay, moving on. Next one. Recognize and rule out avoidant people straight away. All right, so let's just say you meet some man. Oh, he ticks all of your boxes, but Scarlett, there's some things going off. There's some alarm bells. There's some sirens that are telling me that he's avoidant. here's some extra cues. Avoidants, firstly, they're not open books and they tend to repress rather than express their emotions. Okay. An avoidant, when they are in a really frantic situation, like someone dies, or their PTSD gets really triggered, when their attachment system gets activated and they're in a survival-like state, they will come across more anxious. All of a sudden, all of this avoidance, it disappears, and you will go, oh my gosh, maybe they're not avoidant. No. If the situation is something like someone passed away, or God's forsake that the baby, passed away at birth, like something extreme like that, then they will come across more attached. The signs that someone is avoidant, we've already gone through, but what you need to do is have so much inner strength and emotional intelligence to not only know the signs that they are avoidant, but walk away as soon as you know those signs are valid and true. Don't just be like, oh, I think he's a little bit avoidant, but there's a bit of security there, or that, he's got this and that's really great. And, oh, but he does this for me and that's really great. No. I do not want you to repeat the same pain, the same heartbreak, and for you to just live the rest of your life and decades of your life and have children with this man that just makes you anxious. What quality of life is that? Okay. On this topic, look, this is your choice, ladies. All I'm going to tell you this is, do not sleep with them, at the very least, until you know what their attachment style is. Okay? Hopefully they have a secure attachment style. That's the ideal situation. Do not sleep with them until you know what their attachment style is. Why? Because as a woman, the minute that you sleep with a man, there's something that goes on in our biology and our neurology that goes, oh, this is the father to my children. You're anxiously attached. Potentially he's avoidant. You sleep with an avoidant. You see them as the father to your children. Maybe you fall pregnant. And then guess what? Mum and dad. Mum's anxiously attached. Dad's avoidant. Potentially you're just repeating the same bloodline issues. We're here to break the bloodline issues. So until you know for certain that they are secure, do not sleep with them. Okay? Don't even kiss them till you know what their attachment style is. And again, this is why one of my values, again, is to not sleep with a man till I'm married. With that being said, though, I'm not saying that that's what you have to do. At the bare minimum, just know that you should know what their attachment style is before you sleep with them. Point number 11. Oh, let's talk about something more fun and uplifting. Give the secure people a chance, ladies. Just because you don't feel like that spark with them doesn't mean they're bad people, doesn't mean that they're not a match. Let's give the secure men a chance, okay? How do we give the secure men a chance? How do we do that? Where are my notes? It's coming. I've got a lot of notes. Okay. Is it page flipping ASMR? All right. By dividing attachment behavior along gender lines, we can fall into the common trap of equating avoidance with masculinity. Research findings, however, prove that there are many men who are far from being avoidant. They communicate freely. Wow. are loving and affectionate. They do not retreat during conflict and are consistently there for their partner. That's someone who's secure. Another misinterpretation or misperception is that we associate the anxious attachment style with femininity, when in fact, most women are secure and there are plenty of men who have an anxious attachment style. However, it is important to keep in mind that there are also women who fit the avoidant description. When it comes to attachment and gender, the most important fact to remember is that the majority of the population, both male and female, are secure. Did that leave you on a high? I hope it did. So with attachment styles, and you're an anxiously attached, you know that to your core because you've watched part 1 of this video and you've done that test that costs you $2 or $4, which is developed by psychologists and is backed by so much research. Most loving thing you could do for yourself today. You know that you're anxiously attached. Link is below. I don't get any profit off it. This is me helping you. 25% of the population in the dating scene are avoidants. You're more likely to meet an avoidant or be attracted to an avoidant, but a good amount of the population is still secure. Okay? This is why knowing the signs is very helpful. Just because you don't feel the spark with them, just because you don't feel the chemistry, just because you're like, oh, they tick some boxes, but like, oh, I don't know, kind of feels like toast with nothing on it. Toast with nothing on it was my favorite thing when I was a kid. Boring now. Not interested. There is no one for whom attachment theory has to offer than men and women with, there is no one for whom attachment theory has more to offer than men and women with anxious attachment style. Although you suffer the consequences of a bad match and an activated attachment system more intensely, you also stand to gain the most from understanding how the attachment system works, which relationships have the capacity to make you happy, and which situations can make you a nervous wreck. We have witnessed people who have managed to walk away from loneliness to find the companionship they longed for using the principles outlined as such. We have also witnessed people who have been in long-term relationships that brought out the worst in them. But understanding and utilizing attachment principles marked the beginning of a new phase in their relationship, a more secure phase. Everything I have to say, it doesn't have to say for just dating. It has complete relevance in being in a relationship now too. If you're in a relationship, you guys are constantly fighting, he's running away, you're running towards him, there's issues, there's conflicts, you were in love, now the love doesn't feel so strong. Maybe, just maybe, you both need to work on your attachment system. But you can't force someone to work on their attachment system. You can communicate it to them. It's not up to them. It's not up to you to do the test for them. It's up to them to do the test. It's about you expressing your needs that help you maintain a healthy nervous system, that help you reduce your anxiety. And it's about him communicating what helps him. The best thing you could ever do is you individually working on being and becoming more secure, and him working on individually becoming more secure as well. Let me just see if I've got any other notes. Okay, that is it for today. The second video was a lot shorter than the first one. I guess to finish off here, if you haven't met me before, my name's Scarlett Loon, and I am a feminine energy and attachment coach who obviously specializes in anxious attachment for women, be whether you're single or in a relationship. It is one of the most self-loving things you could possibly do, because your attachment style, it dictates how you go about your life, whether your desires come true or not. And it also is related to not just people or men or women and dating and relationships. It's with reference to everything. Your job, your family, your mental well-being, how fit you are, how healthy you are. There's so many different angles to this. Healing my anxious attachment was one of the most self-loving things I could ever do, and the most loving thing I could ever do to my partner or future partner, right? Welcome. If you ever feel like you want to talk to me to see if we'd be a good fit, my mentorship application link is below. There aren't many spots available right now, but if there are, you're one of the lucky ones. If you'd like to start off small, though, what I'd really recommend is purchasing the Healing Your Anxious Attachment in 30 Days journal prompts. What this does is it runs you through different phases of anxious attachment, from understanding and awareness all the way through to healing. 5 journal prompts in the morning, 5 journal prompts at night. They're different every single day. All you have to do is commit to doing journal prompts, 5 in the morning, 5 at night, every day for 30 days. It's not a big ask for what you get in return. The link to that is below. I believe there's a 10% off discount code, Scarlett10. I'll leave the discount code below as well. So yeah, you're welcome to start with that one as well. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already or the podcast, please do so. It helps the video and the episode reach other women like yourself who would benefit greatly from it, who also are suffering with anxiety and struggling throughout life with their anxious attachment. So I have so much love for this community, and I'll just double check the chat before I go to see if there are any more questions at all. I'm also live on TikTok at the same time. So I'm anxious. I know I'm anxious, but I don't know if I'm anxiously attached. Great question. First of all, the mind blank, the test that you can do online, which I'll link in the YouTube video. So you'll have to wait till the YouTube video is posted. But if you DM me on TikTok, I'll just send it right through to you. That will help you know if you're actually anxiously attached. Anxiety, anxiousness, feelings of anxiety is a symptom of anxious attachment. It doesn't necessarily tell you that you're anxiously attached, though. The probability and the likelihood that you are anxiously attached because you suffer with anxiety or experience anxiety is likely, though. But there is no definitive answer that I can give you unless you do that test yourself. It's like $2 or $4. It's the best investment. One of the best investments you could ever make. Okay, I'm going to leave it here, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. It was so lovely to go live, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye.